Well, thank you so much for choosing Morning Live. Now, yesterday, SABC's board members Krish Naidoo, Khanyisile Kweyama, Mattison and Mathatha Tsedu resigned, and they made up part of the interim board and were appointed to tackle some of the issues that had beset the public broadcaster. The SABC issued a statement yesterday noting that President Cyril Ramaphosa has accepted the resignations, and I must just indicate that Morning Live did invite the SABC to join this discussion, but the SABC has declined, saying that it will await the Minister of Communications, that's Ms. Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams, her pronouncement on the way forward before the organisation will make any further comments. Now, trade unions have also expressed serious concern, as have independent producers, regarding these resignations. And in studio with me now, Aubrey Shabalala, who is the General Secretary of the Communication Workers Union, or CWU. For joining us from our Pretoria studios, we have President of the Broadcasting, Electronic Media and Allied Workers Union, BMAU, that's Hannes Dubison, and also with us, Emmy Award-winning filmmaker and also a chairperson of the Independent Producers Organisation, Rehad Desai. Gentlemen, thanks so much for coming through.
Thank you.
Good morning.
So there is a lot happening at the SABC, and it is well documented at this stage. But let's just start with the latest developments, the resignations of the 4 board members. Now, what does this mean for the SABC? Just looking at that headline in this morning's Business Day, and they are saying SABC board left toothless. What does it actually mean, Rehad?
Well, this is the problem. I mean, without the state guaranteed loan, we know the inherited mess that the new board adopted on their assumption of office. This was a mess created by Cloudy and the infighting that's been going on over the SABC for a number of years. We are in a situation now where the SABC board is, the SABC as an institution is no longer a going concern, as stated by the Auditors General, by the PMFA Act. We don't have enough reserves here to ensure that salaries are paid in January, February, March. Hopefully, there are still a couple of months left. We know that the independent producers are owed over 100 million rand. The SABC owes to its debtors something in the tune of 1.2 billion rand. So it's clear that this has been, this ask and this request has been in the pipeline, has been negotiated over a number of months now, and nothing's broken. All the other state-owned enterprises have got state-guaranteed loans. SABC's asking for a very small loan in relationship to the other state-owned enterprises. So people are asking the question, why has the necessary support that's required for the SABC board and its new executive management not being provided, so they can recapitalise, so they can produce the content that they need in order to secure that the audiences come back and don't shrink any further, so we can defend the revenue base that we have and build upon it. So this is the quandary we're facing now. This has been deepened by the recent resignation of 4 board members.
Well, let's pulse the unions on why they believe the SABC hasn't been afforded that guarantee that it has been asking for. Aubrey?
Well, firstly, I think the issue of guarantees can be a problem itself. You can't have an institution that relies on guarantees or on bailouts all the time. You need a sustainable program that will make SABC to be a self-sustained institution. And that's why when we talk about the turnaround strategy, you need to look into the question of the, amongst others which you've been talking about, is the funding model of SABC. We need to look into the question of the DTT moving to having more channels so that we can have a self-sustainable institution in order for SABC to drive its mandate, to broadcast, to give news, to give entertainment to our people. That becomes a fundamental issue. And of course, you cannot look for a quick fix. I think the outgoing board has been looking for a quick fix, cut the staff, cut here. That's not going to sustain your program going forward. We need a strategy that will say, how do you make a SABC as a public broadcaster?
But that's been put before us, Aubrey. I mean, are you saying that you're not in support of a state-guaranteed loan in order to ensure that there is a period of stability so that this broadcaster can be brought back up onto its feet. Is that what you're really saying? I can't believe that coming from a union, because there's no bailout that's being asked for. Simply, all the previous loans have been paid for. This is not an ESCOM or an SAA where it's a black hole we're pouring money into. You're once again, CWU, are getting behind the government and the president and narrow party political interests at the expense of the nation.
Okay, let Aubrey finish his point.
I wouldn't say protect me for yourself, but nevertheless, we have to express this. SABC is a public broadcaster. It has to be sustainable. We can't say all the time we need to have a bailout. Of course, at this point in time, there's no other option. There must be a bailout coming, but we cannot be advocating for that through and through. We need to come out with a solution that will drive SABC in the near future and so forth. To say CW is now behind the government, I think it's far-fetched. Bottom line is, we've been saying that there should be no retrenchment. We should look at a turnaround strategy that will make sure that SAP become one institution that will also create jobs in the near future with a new DTT. That is what we've been advocating. The minister was quite correct to say that, let me intervene, let me assist, let me take you under my wings, let's go to the treasurer and get these guarantees. And what did the board say? Says no, unless they retrench. This is what they had. I think is what we must strive for.
I want to hear from Hannes as well with regard to solutions here, because the SABC needs money. There needs to be a turnaround strategy. Apparently there is one. But again, nobody seems to be in agreement. As I say, turnaround strategy, Aubrey frowns. So I'm not even sure what that means. But from your perspective as Bamau, where does the solution lie?
Well, I think first of all, we are in serious trouble. If I were one of the directors of the board, any one of them, executive or non-executive, I would resign. The SABC is currently doing what is called reckless trading. It is actionable by law. So we need a very serious intervention now. We need some cash injection in the SABC to save the SABC. As Riyad has said, they are independent producers. If those people decide not to deliver their programs, then the SABC is going to be in trouble. We're going to repeat the programs over and over again. And of course, there is also a concern that we're not going to be able to pay salaries after March. I think we welcome the suspension of the Section 189 process. We think that that process should be, that notice should be withdrawn in total. And we need to meet urgently with the SABC to then workshop whatever turnaround plan they have. We need to involve all staff and let them come up with solutions on how to turn around the SABC. I think what Aubrey has said is that, of course, the guarantee or some cash injection in the SABC is a short-term solution. We need to look at long-term solutions, medium-term solutions to fund the SABC in a way that we're not going to dip into state coffers all the time and ask. There should be a decision on how to fund the SABC.
If I may interject there, and I think everybody's in agreement on that point. However, I'm not hearing from all of you at this point as yet how that is supposed to happen. What are the ideas? How is the SABC supposed to function? What needs to be done in the short, medium and long term? And let me start with you, Hannes.
Well, in the short term, what should happen is that we should sit urgently around the table. We should, that plan that the SABC wanted to present to us in the first consultation meeting that was going to be on the 12th and 13th of December, we need to get that plan on the table. We need to share that with all staff. We need to get input from all staff. We need to get buy-in from all staff at the SABC. I spoke to staff yesterday, for instance, about a technical issue. I've realized that the SABC is still using technology technology that is like 20 years old, and that they are struggling to keep and get programs on air. So those are the kind of things that we need to urgently address in terms of the immediate plan on how to turn around the SABC. What is it that we can do? If one look at the revenue of the SABC, there is a clear trend. Since 2014, the revenue has dropped dramatically, and we all know what happened in 2014. The Public Protector published her report in 2014, and then the viewer loyalty went out the door. People are always looking for excuses not to pay their TV licenses. We know at that point in time people were said that they're not going to pay their TV licenses because Slaudi is going to spend the money and all of that. So we need to first start with the staff inside, the personnel inside the SABC. We need to get buy-in from any turnaround plan from them, and then go out and then restore the credibility of the SABC. We need to go to war in advertising, where the SABC's major revenue lies. So there's a number of plans and strategies which we don't necessarily want to discuss on air, but that we and our members can present to the SABC in an attempt to create solutions for the SABC.
Well, I'm glad you put that final disclaimer there, because I was going to say respectfully, I'm still not hearing the solution, because what you are proposing has been done. These are things that we have heard before, we've seen before, and also it sounds as though some of those things will cost us money, which we obviously don't have as the SABC. Rehat, give me more suggestions, ideas. Where do we go?
I mean, absolutely. I don't believe that the turnaround strategy has any chance of success without the full involvement of the staff. There's tremendous experience inside the building and outside with the independent producers of what has worked historically for the SABC. It's clear that there is a big backlog in terms of the infrastructure, that we're working with very old infrastructure. Now, there is only one way that we can defend the audience share that the SABC has in South Africa at the moment and advance it. Because it needs to be advanced, because it's still dependent on advertising revenues. Now, there's going to be no quick fix where we're going to see the state support, government support that was promised in Polokwane in 2007. We had 2008, we had a crash, we had a very clear shrinkage in advertising spend, and we had the disruption of new technology. The SABC now needs to have a very clear catch-up platform, a social media platform, podcasts and so on. In order to modernise itself, it has to have the recapitalisation. In order to get the new programming on air, instead of being dependent simply on the soapies, we need to get the capitalisation. Now, that's what the SABC boards asked for in terms of a guarantee for a loan. It's confident, I've seen the figures, that it can turn around this ship within the space of 1.5 to 2 years. We think the new executive is a good executive. We think that the new board has genuinely been a good new board. It's flex, it needs to be independent. This is critical.
Do you agree, CWU?
No, good board, no. Firstly, there was no interaction. We have an exclusive turnaround strategy that we still don't yet to engage on it. That's the first floor. I'm glad you have raised the issue of Polokwane promises. We also have the December one in Nazareth around the increase of the subsidy to SABC, but more so, you have to talk to the issues of, as we move into digitalization of broadcasting, we have the OTTs that get into that space, over-the-top services, without paying levies like in any other countries, which goes and subsidize part of the public broadcaster. Because the content that we have in the OTTs, which is loaded to our side, they take revenue from South Africa and so forth without contributing, positively to the broadcasting of South Africa. So those are one of the areas we say when you look at the funding model, you have to consider that space, because there's no way that you're still locked in the backwards broadcasting environment.
So that's one of the things we need to look at, perhaps recapitalization.
Yeah. Just to make that a bit simpler for the audience at home, what we need is DSTV to be paying for the content that's on their channels and which is driving their business model is on the back of the SABC, and it's not paid for. We need a new legislative environment, amended legislation to ensure that the SABC has an environment where it can actually grow.
Okay. Yeah. From where I'm sitting, cognitive dissonance from the unions, from the independent producers. Independent producers, you come to the SABC and you're also concerned about what's going on and the fact that you're not getting paid. However, you refuse to use SABC facilities like Henley, and people have lost jobs, you know, things have fallen apart because you choose to go elsewhere. Do you think you could do better in that space in making sure that you help the SABC to thrive?
Well, the SABC competes in terms of its facilities with other facilities around in Johannesburg and Cape Town and Durban and so on. It hasn't been able to come in at a price where it's competitive.
So that's the problem? That's
the problem. The budgets have not increased for the last 10 years, which has meant that we've seen a 50% decline in the real budget terms of the programming, which has meant a decrease in the quality and our competitiveness of the SABC in relationship to the other channels.
Are you willing, as independent producers, to work with the SABC to try and find a solution to that problem?
Absolutely, and this is what we're calling for. All parties, including the Minister of Communications, including the unions, including the presidency and other key stakeholders, to get around the table and work out how we can take this critically important institution forward.
Okay.
Instead of letting it collapse. And that's what has been happening. From the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee, they need to actually stand up and be counted and do what is required.
As do the unions and everybody else. Hannes de Bisson, what are you going to do going forward differently and better? Because the unions have been said to be a part of some of the problems that the SABC is faced with.
Well, I'm not sure what exactly is meant by that, if it says we are part of the problem.
What is meant by that? Let me tell you quickly, just as an example. For example, when the SABC went out and paid artists, musicians, royalties that the SABC had no business doing, where were the unions? Where were your voices? Why didn't you come out and speak out against that? That's just an example, and there are many others. Yes. But I want to know, from the union's perspective, moving forward, where can you make a difference?
Well, I think, as we have said, we've been instrumental since 10 years ago to expose corruption at the SABC, to try to get a clean governance at the SABC, to ensure that there are no political interference. I think everyone knows that we've been part of the SABC 8. We've been compiling files, handed it over to the Portfolio Committee. We are going to continue to closely watch the SABC. We are going to continue to engage the SABC on how to do things better on their side. We're going to continue to be the watchdog that we've been up until now, and we hope that the SABC and the board is going to work with us. Just in terms of the previous discussion around the board, we believe that there are pockets of excellence in the board. The problem at the SABC is its human resources system. It is non-existent. We currently have a human resources director that is non-responsive to any of the unions' attempts to assist the SABC, questions that has been asked, involvement in processes. So we need a shake-up in that particular area. And of course,
Hannes, thanks for that. I think Aubrey will complete perhaps some of the other issues that you would like to see going forward. Aubrey?
No, absolutely. And thanks for the criticism. I think some of the things we have to take home around that, to be more at the public discourse around the issues that happen, because more of the time we're in closed doors in criticizing those things, but not openly. I think it's something that we must work on. But welcome also the input to say we need to sit around the table, all of us, to deal with these things and come up with a better model to go forward. But in this board, the resignation must not be taken as part of running away from accountability. There is that security tender that has been given. We also have to question the Kwesa sport. contract that actually compromises the local sport above of the English Premier League, and all those contractors have been entered into. The board, the outgoing and those who are remaining, must account to say how did those things happen whilst we are bleeding poverty at SABC.
Well, gentlemen, what an invigorating discussion. Thank you so much for making the time this morning. And we had from CWU, Aubrey Shabalala, from Bemau, Hannes Dubison, and from the Independent Producers Organization, Rehat Desai, speaking to us about some of the issues here at the SABC. And just to indicate once again, the SABC did not participate in the discussion because they would rather wait for the minister's proclamation before the organization says anything.